just upload this video after the last one I made in the early hours. I do want to make this a quick video if I can. I've just seen part of a video, a live video a live stream by Paul Thorpe, and he's it's a comfort to see that he's just so human. And I know that sounds like a stupid thing to say, but I need to see it, because I've just come back from Monique Prescott and from Eastbourne Borough Council, and if she knows about my YouTube channel. She's never admitted to watching or seeing any of my channel or anything. I'm hiding my anger, even though I'm biting my tongue with her, because what she has said is not really too dissimilar to... There's a contrast, really, in what she has said to me, which is so appalling, in this loony lefty town. And I will come to that in a minute. It's not too dissimilar to the contrast of what Paul Thorpe has just said on his live stream, about what happened in Merseyside. And I mean, I've only just looked it up. I didn't know about this, but some children have been stabbed. Two of them died outside a nursery. I have to say this in a disassociative state, because Danny couldn't come on Paul's live stream because he was too angry, which is understandable. And the parents of the children that were stabbed outside the nursery will probably be called racist. You see where I'm going with this? Now, I'm angry enough at what Monique said to me about the vile creature, in contrast, and I'll come to this because it's separate to what I've just learned, obviously, that the vile creature that was mentioned in the national news as mugging the elderly for a second time. She had 22 previous convictions. I've just been told, well, she had her issues. Yes, she was almost criticising me. And she said to me, and I can't get my head round this, don't you think people are afraid if you tell the truth? She sounds like Chantel. That speaking the truth means you have your freedoms taken from you. Throughout history, people have died for our freedoms. Okay? If the Nazis had won the war, things would be very different in this country. We would never have known freedom like we know in this country, right? But you're labelled a Nazi and a fascist if you say something about these illegals that have been, yes, you see where I'm going, convicted for stabbing to death babies. and little children in France and in England. Yes. Because they come, I don't know. Because they don't like the West. They have hatred for the West. Now, I've got some anger because I've had to listen to this bullshit from Monique, who should be helping me. But I'll come to that in a minute. I've got a court case, a court hearing that has been. It's on the 8th of for restitution, but I'm not safe to go back to that house share with those nutcases. The demented tenants and the landlady, and I don't know what she's done, if she's cut off she'd already threatened to cut off the heating. But I've got so much to say because I've got something to say about Daphne, the social worker, because she rang me. Oh, you couldn't make this up. It's just endless. It is endless. Anyway, I'm smiling, but don't be fooled. I'm putting on bullshit smiles. Pardon my language. Now, my partner's just told me he came back to the room and the stress caused him, I don't want to embarrass him, but it made him so ill that he vomited and got dysentery as well. This is the effect that this stress is having on. It's literally killing me, which is why I said to Monique, that about losing blood and needing a blood transfusion. When I returned to the property to find the locks had been changed, I had to go to A&E with a painful twisted muscle, which I had for a week. And as a result of having a blood test, I then found out that I had lost a lot of blood without even realising it. And as I said, I don't want to be graphic because, of course, being a female, at my time of life, it's not normal to, anyway, I don't want to be graphic, but, she can take iron tablets, but hemoglobin is only in blood, so there's no other way to get hemoglobin other than by accepting blood, and regardless of what the Bible says, I don't think it's right to have another person's blood put into you. This thing about and putting other people's body parts in your body, that's up to you. It's all based on choice, but I just don't want to do anything that's unnatural, if you're supposed to die, then you're supposed to die. If you're supposed to live, you're supposed to live. And it's not my decision, in the same way I didn't decide to be born, did I? So, But anyway, I'm going off on one. But yeah, no, I just went on to Paul Thorpe's to have a quick look. And I haven't seen him cry before. He's obviously, it's very it's very. I haven't watched the rest of the live stream. I just had a quick look because I wanted to see an update on what's happened to Tommy Robinson, and then I hear that what's happened in Merseyside. And I understand. I totally understand. And it's struck a chord with him anyway, because his grandchildren were at a similar event today, and it could have been his grandchildren that were stabbed. So it's affected him. It does, doesn't it? So I don't mean to sound cold. I'm wrapped up in my own hell that I'm going through. I want to help this person set up a community. Monique has made me so angry, but it doesn't surprise me. You know, I did say to her, you know, suddenly you've got a soft spot for me, but you didn't when an old lady was saying to you that I'm not a problem and I was traumatised by being beaten out of that flat. Now, she's basically just discriminated me when she's supposed to be supporting me, right? Because, excuse me, because, wait for it, SDR Living, go on the website and it says that they are basically a supported accommodation that deals with complex needs. Wait for it. You couldn't make this shit up. They just can't help themselves. They just cannot help themselves. It's on the website. Wait for it. She said, right, that they said the reason why they got rid of me from SDR Living was because my needs, wait for it, it's just endless bullshit. You'd laugh your head off if you didn't cry your head off. They said my needs were too complex for them. Yes, this is a supported accommodation specifically for people with complex needs. The care coordinator who worked for my GP practice, the Lighthouse practice, in Eastbourne, was sacked after she told me I could have that flat as long as I needed it. Now, I was very calm with Monique today, Monique Prescott from Eastbourne Borough Council, and I said to her, and I don't swear to people, but I've started swearing a bit in the last few days because I've got so much pent-up anger. And I said, I've never heard such utter bullshit. I said, I was beaten by the police out of that flat as a response to my father's death on a world-famous suicide spot. But my needs are too complex for people in a supported accommodation trained to deal with complex needs. And Monique is saying to me, and I'm sorry, I'm trying not, I don't want to mock her, because Monique, if you get wind of this, I'm not mocking you. This is the way I talk. I mimic people and I'm not being rude. But I'm the one don't forget, who's the victim, who's hiding all the trauma and anger, of course. Don't you think that people could be afraid of you telling the truth? I think people people are afraid of the truth. And I thought, where is she going with this? They just don't know how to handle. The thing is, Bryony, they don't know how to handle you telling the truth. I said to what? Well, what do you say to that? So I said, nothing I do is ever right. So if I was to lie my head off, like these operatives, is this a guilty conscience? Because if you've got nothing to hide, why would you be afraid of someone telling the truth? You'd want to hear them telling the truth, surely. I don't want to hear fluffy lies. I'm trying to understand where she's going with this, because narcissists don't like authentic. They can't stand authenticity. Narcissists. That's why I'm dealing with all these nutcases. Because there are so many of them in Eastbourne. All these narcissists. It's a disease. It's everywhere. But as Darren is trying to comfort me whilst we're both trying not to lose our heads completely and going completely insane over this, he is reassuring me because he's saying it's because of what is going on. We know that. Yeah, we know that. We are living in very, very dark times. These are the end times. This is like, the dark mafia. There's stuff going on. He's subscribed to a man who, in America, who knows about the dark mafia, how the white hats are going after the ones who are... There's a war going on behind the scenes that we can't see. And the white hats are going after these criminals that have done this stuff to us, the mass genocide and, the jibby-jabby mass genocide. Because they were handing out leaflets and the light, the light newspaper, what do you call it, the light newspaper at the Freedom Rally in London. I said, you need to give one of these to your parents, because his parents are in their 70s and 80s, and they, they're brainwashed into we are just hoping and praying. I mean, he's, in his own way, my partner's trying to say to me, the reason why they haven't asked me if I'm okay is because they're like the sleepers. They're basically brainwashed. And of course he doesn't want to use words like that about his parents. It's very difficult. And of course we don't want his parents to die to leave this world in that dark mind control set, because I could see through all of it. On a parallel universe, had these things not been done to me, had the council and the police not tortured me, made me homeless, they've ruined my life. I was telling Monique, because she doesn't know any of this. I was explaining to her, and she looked a bit perplexed. I was explaining to her how several times I'd been beaten by the police on Beachy Head, and how they and Serco tried to get me in prison over a welfare check on Beachy Head, and that the legal ombudsman tried to get me compensation. And these are crimes against humanity. Now, I appreciate that Monique is perhaps got a mindset where she's dealing with your Joe average, everyday, run-of-the-mill, not used to hearing someone like me. But then most people aren't used to hearing someone like me. I've got unusual circumstances. But hang on a minute. And this is the thing that you just cannot argue with. Because she's trying to get me, and it's not going to work, Monique, to mind control, to get me to see that maybe I'm being perhaps a little bit unfair to people who are alcoholics and junkies, or drug addicts, sorry. No, I'm not, because I said to her, technically speaking, I should be lying in a ditch. And for the first time in my life, I understand why people are on drugs, because I, technically speaking, should be on drugs myself. But because I've had such a middle-class upbringing, I'm being discriminated. Years ago, there were people in the town, in Eastbourne, saying to me, I think you'd get the help. This is like over 10 years ago. You'd probably get the help if you were on drugs, an alcoholic, and all of that. But I've actually been criticised, would you believe it, for looking after myself. Yes. The social worker landlord said you go around looking like $1 million. That was the social worker landlord who said to my mother he'd get a good pension out of it. Oh, and he died of cancer. He told me to check that I hadn't inherited my mother's cancer. Well, you know what they say, what goes around comes around. He said I knew too much. I think the lies, that's where the abuse started, because I was telling her how his brother, because there's just so much to say. His brother said, "What the fuck were you doing up on Beachy Head drunk?" And that was my support worker. Lovely. I said, doesn't take a thicko to work that one out. A woman who doesn't drink on a world-famous suicide spot, intoxicated, and put in a police cell. That was in 2008. That was the first time I'd done that. And it was very frightening for a woman who's had a very middle-class, sheltered upbringing, an upbringing perhaps not too dissimilar to Kate Middleton. I'm the same age as Kate Middleton. And, you know, even Adamant's girlfriend said, you know, she's a lady. Talking about me. I'm a lady. Yes, I'm a lady. I was brought up with etiquette. I was brought up extremely well. It's not good enough. If you were to read what this nutcase landlady has written about me, how she sounded all motherly. I'll help you write a book. The social services are full of bollocks. This 85-year-old retired matron who told me she lost a niece to suicide. She's gone and done all of this. She said that I scream and shout and I'm a scary person. I don't accept help from the mental health services. Wait for it. This landlady that's exploited me. Honestly, the wrath of Yahweh is real. If that's his name, that's his name. My partner says that's his name. Our Creator. His wrath is true. The wrath is real. Let's just put it that way. There's a reason why if you were to just take one of the things that has happened to me, most people wouldn't last 2 minutes. I've just been spent time telling Monique how I had to almost program myself to survive. I played her the recording. I had the dictaphone with me. I played her the recording of the criminal on a tag threatening to beat me senseless at 3 a.m. And PC Scott Franklin Lester turned up 3 hours later. This is a raging alcoholic. I went into detail about it. I said things that I haven't said on my YouTube channel because there's so much to say. There was a half-naked drunk man who tried to get into my room. And as someone who's actually been to Hove Crown Court and put someone in prison for 2 years and on a sex offenders register for 10 years with no help from anyone, yeah, I was already dealing with my mother's death on my own. I am Superwoman, basically. My mother was dying. She was angry that I was being harassed by an old man. When she was dying of a rare cancer, she overheard the old man in my supported accommodation harassing me, and she was angry. My mother would be 86 now, by the way. This old man was harassing me. The staff who were meant to be supporting me found it funny. Now, Monique, I've just been so polite to you. But I'm going to say on my YouTube channel, I have to listen to this bullshit all the time. All the time. And I was polite to you. But I am taking that anger with me, and I don't want that anger to manifest as cancer. Thank you very much. Because as I said to you, I have lost blood. A blood transfusion is a life-saving. Due to my beliefs, I'm not going to accept it. But as a result of this stress, and you're telling me at the hub that, Sherelle Clark had to be protected because they might have other special needs. Special needs? Well, being a crack cocaine addict, spitting her food everywhere. I haven't seen my kids. I'm not surprised her children went into care. I looked her up. She was released from prison with 22 previous convictions to do the same thing, to mug the elderly. The elderly. That could be your mother, Monique. That could be your grandmother. Yes, I can't believe I'm actually having to say this. This is what I mean. I'm being polite to this woman. I'm giving Monique a chance. She's admitted to me, she did at least admit to me, that when I self-funded the Cavendish for 9 months for my safety, that her colleagues said to her, you don't have to take the call because she's recording. Yes, I was recording. But if you've got nothing to hide, which clearly you do, because why would you say people are afraid of you telling the truth? What have you got to hide? What have you got to hide? I am the victim of I was attacked to the point where I thought I'd be killed. I recorded neighbours at the Riverbourne house, and it's all on that dictaphone. I recorded Sherelle Clark. Charles Lucas Property Management. Oh, the landlady will be watching this. Yes. Yes, she'll be watching this. She claims that she knew Justin. Well, she mentioned Justin from Charles Lucas Property Management. Well, just for the record, there's a whole lot more that I didn't say to Monique today. On that dictaphone is a hate crime that I recorded from the very scummy man who gave me the key to the property, an A&A contractor. Yes, they're all bent. All of them. They all make me sick. They all make me physically sick. BHT, Lorraine Blackwell. I said to her she was practically crying. She was under the thumb. She might as well have said, I'm doing what my higher-ups are telling me to do. She said that Sherelle Clark had to stay at the property. The BBC later mentioned her in the national news as mugging the elderly. Now, Eastbourne has got a drugs. Yes, the Freemasons, there's a local Freemason lodge. They make their money by going to the nightclubs. From what I'm learning, thanks to people like Jeff and people who are speaking out on the streets about the Freemasons, these Satanists, the human trafficking, the child abuse, all this stuff, yeah. They make their money by selling drugs. This is what the Freemasons do. This is what the establishment, the elite, who I thought were there to protect us, who are keeping us enslaved, they sell illegal drugs to people in these nightclubs. That's what the Cray brought. The Cray twins did that. They were gangsters. They were Freemasons. The ones that are in the government are criminals. And we've looked up to them for so long. For so long. But we are at a time now where unthinkable evil, all hell is being unleashed. All the children that have been kidnapped by social workers from loving families. Oh yes, people are afraid of me telling the truth, Monique. You're right. What have you got to hide them? Are you going to do what's right? Because you've just discriminated me. I've told you I'm a broken person. I've told you I'm worried about my gold ring. They went into the SDR living. They took all my stuff out. I was left to wander the streets in my nightwear. I was so humiliated. Darren's letting agent saw me. The people that had run the Caffins, the fancy, the Rolls Royce, the Caffins in the town that's got the, is it a Bentley or a Rolls Royce? A fancy old fashioned car. One of those vintage cars. They saw me on the steps of my late mother's estate, accountancy firm. I won't say the name of it because I don't want people to know. Obviously, I've got to be careful what I say. A lovely lady saw me in my pyjamas and dressing gown. Probably thought that's not right. On the steps of an accountancy firm. So that's my late mother's estate. Because I didn't know where to go. I'd spent 4 hours with Dr. Jones at the lighthouse practice. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do. It was pathetic. And I was saying, I've been locked out. The manager of the Lansdowne Hotel said, we get complaints about that place all the time. We get people coming into the hotel. From SDR Living, where people are trained to deal with complex needs. He went to the head of police, whoever that is. I'd like to know which head of police that was. This is the duty manager of the Lansdowne Hotel and the managing director of SDR, whom I filmed, looking me, walking away from me. And then looking me. What happened was they came into my flat, served me notice to basically get out of there, and then I was in distress. I'd been up Beachy Head, suicidal. I crying over my father's death. My father died in 2021. I still don't know how he died. No one's given me any information about it. I've been told to take his things or they'll be disposed of. But they're saying my needs are too complex. But if I take drugs and I'm an alcoholic, yeah, you're all quidding. It's evil. It is evil. They have lied. They slandered me in the Herald. The vulnerable customer champion at the legal ombudsman tried to get me compensation because a solicitor couldn't understand how a welfare check on a world famous suicide spot could turn into me being convicted of beating the police when they had beaten me so many times. Monique, you're no different to this Chantel, who's had it quite easy. Why? Because it's about networking in the town, isn't it? You know the phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know. I worked with a Freemason who wanted his wicked way with me when I was a teenager. Yes. I was working in a place where, funnily enough, dare I say it, where I was operating children's rides and everything, and he made dirty comments that he was older than my father, he was 55, I was 19, and, and I felt bad because I think I was encouraging it. But, when you're a vulnerable female and you haven't had a father figure in your life, because I told her about the violence between my parents, from my father, sorry, and this. But when you've had a middle class upbringing, and your mother has encouraged you to drink wine the way children do on the continent rather than in the UK, because of course here in the UK, we've got a drinking problem, haven't we, amongst young people? Where my mother's American friend was appalled to see about 20 years ago. She came about 15 years ago, sorry. She came over and stayed with Mum, and she said, this is how people behave on a night out in the UK. Young people, teenagers, young women, getting drunk and doing disgusting things in the street that I can't repeat. This degeneracy that's been going on for a long time. It's all been socially engineered, of course, like everything. People didn't behave like this in my mother's day, but it's been socially engineered. It's this breaking down of society and the family unit, this Satanism. I told her about Adamant. I knew Monique wouldn't be able to handle what I was going to say. She said, oh yeah, I fancied Adamant back in the day. Didn't we all? But I told her how he wrote to me, and I went to the conventions. I told her about my sister's sex change, that a locum said we need trauma-based therapy. Now, my transgender sister got Adamant to write to me. Adamant admits he's a Satanist. His band were wearing I Heart Satan t-shirts. I've always been a so-called Christian, as it were, for want of, we all call ourselves Christians if we think we're good people in the UK, but I've always put it this way, I've always had faith. So I told her how my partner took me to the Hebrew Aramaic scriptures. He walked into all my problems. This is all happening for a reason, right? So I'm trying to say it in a way that I think that Joe Average will understand, and about how Adamant worships Baphomet, like all the other Freemasons and the rock stars. And I was just about to explain to her how I saw him doing, when he did the Prince Charming, he's doing the Baphomet hand gestures, which, unless you knew about Baphomet, unless you had done the research that I've done, you would not see the subliminal messaging that I saw. I told her that it was thanks to Mark Devlin, who is at a Truthers conference, and one of the speakers at that Truthers conference was Ray Savage, who dated the mother of children I played with. He's an ex-Sussex police sergeant. How his nephew was found in the harbour with concrete tied to his legs because he was being targeted by the 77 Brigade, and he said, I'm a victim. I said, it's a very, very small world. Adamant's best friend worked across the road from our house. My transgender sister got her to get Adamant to write to me. The punk anarchy, Adamant's friend was a punk, a well-known punk. Well, the punk anarchy symbol, reverse it, you've got the Baphomet, the pentagram thingy. Yeah, it's everywhere. All this stuff, we know it's everywhere, but Adamant wrote to me about his demons. Now, Baphomet has obviously it's a satanic. We all know, anyone who's anyone should know this by now. Baphomet has got the breasts and the penis. Now, I've got to be careful and sensitive how I say this, but someone, and I won't say their name, still told me at an Adamant gig that he still had his thing down there and breasts. He still had his, like, Baphomet. And that was in Brighton. No one's going to know who I'm talking about, so it's okay. But he showed, I always called him a her because he had the look and a woman's name, right? Now, he showed me and my transgender sister a picture of him as a man. And me and my now transgender sister, I thought to myself, I hope he doesn't give her any ideas. But now, of course, she's gone ahead and done it. And I said to her, I'm worried for her. I am not worried for me. I'm worried for her. It's up to my sister what she does to her body. But I'm not scared for me. I'm scared for her because I love her. If I didn't love my sister, I wouldn't be scared for her. And Monique's like, I'm gonna say it because it pisses me off. She's in this loony left. She said your sister, he. And she said he is a he, isn't he? You know, he. No, she is my sister. And I love her. Maybe Monique doesn't. All these people that tell me to accept her. I accept her decisions, that her decisions are her decisions, but I will never accept that my sister is a man. It is what it is. Call a spade a spade. It is a satanic agenda. And the bottom line is, call a spade a spade. I love my sister. However hurt I am by my narcissistic sisters and how they bullied me mentally, and some of it a bit was physical, but it's the psychological thing that is really. Now, my partner said that this was going on. I said, look, I've never had police beatings. I've never known anything like what has been done to me until I was with you. And, of course, they gave him a caring role. So care for the carers. And then they used him as a scapegoat, right? Because they were abusing me and then saying, oh, he's abusing you. You're crying. Because every time he upset me, they'd say, right, he's not coming on the ward. And yet they gave him a caring role for me. You know, I know I'm too intelligent for them. They want me to be just totally. They want you to take their pills, their billion-dollar industry pills. They want you off your head. They want you to be controlled. It's not about help and support. It's about fear and control. Social engineering. Wake up, people. Wake up. If you're not awake, listen to what I'm saying. Why do you think it's all political? It's all the Luciferians the Freemasons have infiltrated every institution, and that includes the Tavistock Institute, all these places. It's everywhere. Anyway, I think I've gone on now for 45 minutes. I wanted to make a 10-minute video and I've done it again. But this is what happens though when you've been through so much and you're still putting up with the same old, and it's so boring. This is why I stopped doing care work, by the way. I was bullied so badly that, like Darren last night, I was violently sick. I was bullied by the staff. This landlady, she's going to really, once they look into her libelous claims. She said that I was a carer, that I worked for Southdown, and that's all I'm saying on that one. She's gone round trying to get information, and she thinks she's so right, she's so wrong. I didn't work for Southdown, but I did do care work. Are you taking notes? Are you making sure you're getting this right? Because I'm not going to say things so that but anyway, yeah. So anyway, back to this Daphne though, this social worker. So I spoke to this social worker. I love it. I love the fact that they're afraid. That they're afraid of me telling the truth. Good, because now I know the ones who are afraid have got a lot to hide. Now I know to be wary of. But yeah, Monique. By the way, they won't take me. All the so-called supported accommodation providers won't take me back. Yeah, even though I explained every horror story you can think of. There's still stuff I haven't said to her, because there's always stuff I still haven't said. But I showed photographic evidence of bed bugs crawling on me, and the council made me homeless. I was thrown to the ground by a firearms officer because I threatened to go up Beachy Head suicidal, because they had made me street homeless for showing evidence of bedbugs crawling on me. Yeah, you are going to be in a perpetual state of trauma, Monique. Of course you are. Once you hear it, but it's just, oh my gosh, why? The thing that really angers me is obviously the thing about we've got to feel sorry for a really vile, disgusting individual who went round mugging the elderly. I had £12,000 of back pip. That's your taxpayers' money. And I wanted to use some of that money to donate a mobility scooter to my mother's resting place, which I haven't been to for some time. But it went on the shitty hotels in Eastbourne, particularly the Cavendish Hotel. Oh, and despite me being a loyal guest of 9 months self-funding, yes, 9 months I self-funded the Eastbourne Cavendish Hotel. 9 months. A loyal guest. And then they got the police in just to say they didn't want me there anymore because they claimed that I was complaining too much. Go and have a look on TripAdvisor from 2021. I mean, in my review in 2018, I was repeating other people's reviews because it was like 40 towers. You couldn't make it up. Someone found a rat or a mouse or something. People having abuse from the staff there. They had a turnout of staff. The hotels, I mean, honestly, yes, it is true. If you complain enough times and you keep going, if you've got no choice though, if you're being forced into these hotels because of a corrupt council, and then they're not going to take you. There isn't anything I haven't seen in this town. And there are rich people running the town, covering it all up. I said to Monique the names of the people who didn't turn up for their appointments, and they put on record that I don't engage and that I refuse help when I'm the one screaming out for help. This is actually libel. This is criminal libel. It's criminal. It is criminal. If they decide that they don't like you, they will put this shit on your medical records. I came close to trying to sue the Herald for libel. They've destroyed me. They've absolutely destroyed me, besmirched my very good reputation, just for speaking the truth. I helped a plainclothes police officer. I helped a plainclothes police officer who could have been stabbed. He had a man on his back. He needed backup. I went over to him and I said, "You need some help?" Yeah, please. And I rang 999. What was my payback for that? These dangerous thugs and PC Scott Franklin Lester, who at the time was mentioned in the Herald as look at me, look at my medals. And I've just played Monique, the recording that I played in the last video that I'm trying to upload now. About 40 minutes into that video, I'm playing the raging alcoholic on a tag threatening to beat me senseless. I'm in the bathroom, locked in there, terrified, because I was attacked prior to that, to the point where I thought I'd be killed. Several licensees in that property attacked me. Several. Now, whether they were encouraged to or not, but I was also assaulted by Sherelle Clark after I insisted that Charles Lucas Property Management install CCTV. They did. It was right outside my room. I said, "You tell me, how is it that I can give the date and the time of an assault on me right in front of a CCTV camera that I insisted they install right outside my room, but the police and the property managers couldn't find it." Yeah. Sherelle Clark was being protected. Lorraine Blackwell at BHT was practically crying. Very, very nervous, and she said the council say she has to stay in your house. I recorded the neighbours supporting me at the guy from the council who came out with his lanyard to threaten me with paperwork to stay away from the Riverbourne house. He looked tearful. Their paymasters are telling them what to do. The Riverbourne house residents had their windows open. They were yelling across the road to me, supporting me, whilst I was ringing the police, who did nothing. Nothing. Silly little cowardly children. And I told her what happened with Serco. This is exactly what they did with the Nazis. And you need to wake up, folks. You need to wake up. Have you seen footage of the children who are being taught to do the Nazi salute? Children. During the war, they're being mind controlled, programmed. Well, they tried to get me in prison over a welfare check on our world-famous suicide spot, whilst protecting dangerous convicted criminals, one of whom... Oh, but Monique is saying we need to think of them and their issues. That's what your taxpayers' money is going on. So Monique said yeah, you're right, Monique. You're right. Are you going to do the right thing, though, Monique? You know about my videos. You won't tell me if you've seen them. In the same way that earlier today, Daphne would not tell me, the social worker Daphne would not tell me how the landlady knew about her. Because this landlady, I'm going to go to court, you see. Her name, Charlotte's name, is also on there. Charlotte, the DA, the floating support worker who's just closed my case. Did she say? She did. Now, Charlotte denied that she said to the landlady, there's no money for a DHP, a discretionary housing payment. Brighton Housing Trust were meant to help me set up the housing element of housing benefit. Now, Daphne would not say to me, when I said to her that this landlady has said in her libelous statement, Daphne says Bryony does not accept help. This Daphne is useless. I was polite to her, but I didn't tell her that. She's done nothing, and she said nothing. And I said, well, Daphne, isn't it interesting? You couldn't make this up. What a laugh this is. That the landlady has written on her libelous statement that Daphne says Bryony doesn't accept help. I have got a recording. I could play it now, but I don't want to because it's not very nice, because at the end I end up shouting, I want to go and kill myself, and then I hang up because this social worker is saying, we can't help you, even though I'm on severe disability, and for nearly 4 weeks I've been illegally locked out of the house. And bailiffs are going to go round to the landlady's house, which is literally just a few doors up. She doesn't live in Malta. Or maybe she's just been staying here just to orchestrate this. You know, that's how it's looking anyway. But so basically, because this is human trafficking. This is a form of, I got into that property off my own back for my own safety, in the same way that I fled my room at Belmore Road for my safety, to self-fund the Cavendish for 9 months with £12,000 of back pip, just for my safety. They don't want anyone to hear what I'm saying. Anyone who doesn't want for others to hear what I've got to say has got a lot to hide. And I can believe what David has said about Chantel the more I think about it, because she's shown her true colours. How can she have a business and go on Facebook and go to these food stops for free food, then criticise everyone else who's taking free food? Apparently she's bad news, and she goes round scrounging from people, but I can't comment on that. But what I can comment on is she's attacking me and attacking someone else who's vulnerable, who's got a rogue landlord, and he said these BHT know about these places. Yes, he's been put in a flat that's the size, it's not a flat, it's a shed. It's illegal. Oh, and Chantel is saying it's part of the small housing scheme. Bollocks. No, it is illegal. And apparently the authorities are now onto this rogue landlord. And the church apparently helped get him in there. And they got cross with him because he was complaining about it, because it's got no windows, for crying out loud. Health and safety. It's got a door. Oh, yes, he can open the door. Chantel says he needs to stop moaning. At least he can open his door. Oh, Chantel, get your head out of your ass. Honestly. I get annoyed that I can't open these bloody hotel windows. You used to open these Victorian sash windows. You used to be able to open them like that and get all the air coming in. Oh, but because of health and safety, they then make it so that you can only open the windows that much. People have fainted in the hotel rooms. Oh, but they don't want to be sued if someone wants to suddenly throw themselves out the window. You've got Beachy Head up the road, for fuck's sake. But it's all about the suing culture. This is why this country is just gone so mad. It is an open-air prison. That is a world-famous suicide spot just up the road. And speaking of which, my partner was saying that he actually spoke to someone called Reese. And I said, that sounds familiar. Reese is a patient who was in the psychiatric unit at the same time as me. He jumped off Beachy Head, killed himself, the same time that I went AWOL. I went to my late mother's resting place. I went off on the cuckoo trail. They were driving me nuts in there. They were abusing me. Just toxic, narcissistic abuse. Oh, like you wouldn't believe. The psychopaths in there that run it. Well, I was reported missing in the Herald at that time, and that was in 2018. They actually contacted my late father, and I haven't seen my father for 30 years. I still don't know how he died. And he said, is this attention seeking? So he's taking in the bullshit from them, you see. It's all bullshit. But at the same time that I went AWOL, this Reese apparently went and jumped off Beachy Head, and they were trying to hush it up. I remember someone saying, when I was looking at this Reese, someone said, oh, his brother jumped off Beachy Head. Well, apparently Darren says he has only just admitted to me that he spoke to this Reese. And he said that Reese said that he'd just had enough of them in there, that he was actually thinking of going up to Beachy Head. Because this is the first time he's told me this, because I said, oh, isn't he the one who jumped off Beachy Head and killed himself? He's only just told me. He said, I remember someone called Reese saying they just don't listen in there, the psychiatric unit. They don't listen. They don't care. And he said he went up to Beachy Head and that he got so near to the edge. So he went beyond, that point of, where you think, oh, I don't think I should do this. He went beyond that. But then he did actually go and kill himself. I think it was, when was it? Was it the summer of 2000 when was I reported missing in the Herald? Was it 2018? Reported missing. When I went AWOL. And the food bank advocates said to Darren that they actually thought that I'd gone and killed myself. I didn't even know that. I didn't know that. That rings a bell, but I didn't know, because so much has happened. But, the only person who's actually diagnosed my OCD unofficially thought that I'd gone and killed myself when Reese went and jumped off Beachy Head where his brother jumped. So there you go. We know of people who've killed themselves. They've got so much to cover up in this town. It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable. And I am just I can't get someone to do something. I said, anyone would think I'm asking for massive things. I've been asking for small things. They've made it worse because I have a mental breakdown and I get punished. I get assaulted and beaten just for being human. If you're human, we're living in Satan's world. They glorify evil. That's why they said to me, if you take drugs, David said to me, Chantel blew her universal credit on drugs. Yeah, she comes across as a nicey lady like Monique at the hub. And she got the help that she needed, though, didn't she? She got the help from the very people that I've exposed. PC, Franklin, Lester. These are war crimes. Crimes against humanity. Trying to get me in prison over a welfare check on Beachy Head. Illegally injecting me. Shani illegally injecting me with a substance. It could have been anything. Because of the jibby jabbies. This was just before COVID. And she didn't have a wet ink signature from me to do that. They pinned me down. They said, you take these pills, or you've got a choice. You take these pills or you take this injection. It's like something out of Victorian times. They were holding me down. Just because I got angry, saying, I demand to have my phone to call the police over my possessions. It's a hangable offence under Nuremberg trials to this day. If that frightens you, Monique, then you may as well feel sorry for the family of Wayne Couzens who raped and murdered Sarah Everard, because he was a police officer. You got to make up your mind. Choose your side. Don't do this bullshit. We don't do this bullshit. I was only following orders. That's what the war criminals said at the Nuremberg trials before they were hanged. I know what it's like to follow orders. I know what it's like to be Lorraine Blackwell. I know what it's like. I did care work, and I felt angry with myself because there were people, elderly people, who were not getting what they were paying for, and the managers were taking it, all the shit was taken out on us who were on the front line, right? So I do understand. Now this Daphne, would you believe she has said, go back to BHT? She then said, I have to go now. But I didn't have a chance to say to her, there's no point in doing that, because Jo Wilson of Hastings, she's a manageress for BHT. She said, we're not going to help you anymore in Eastbourne at BHT. I said, why? Because you don't trust us. Now, she put words into my mouth. I never said that. I never wrote it. But when my partner went down to BHT, Dan Saxby said, again, something that is slanderous. It's not true. He said, she thinks that we're useless. I never said that. But, yeah, you're right. I never said it, but, see, they know that they're useless. And then I spoke to Catherine, who told Chantel, to leave it alone when those. Catherine, who I do like, who I think is this lady at the food stop, who's been through hell with BHT and the rest of it. She said, oh, BHT are useless. I said, funny you should say that, because this legal rep that was going to help me make a counterclaim with this landlady is not going to now. So two BHT legal reps have decided not to help me make a counterclaim. 2 floating support workers from BHT have closed my case. The first one, who was meant to help me set up housing benefits, then the second one had to then set up a DHP, because the first one was meant to help me, You see what I mean? They orchestrate problems, and then it's like this is what the elite do, by the way. It's the same thing. Create the problem, then the solution. And let's be so thankful to the narcissists for what they've done for us. No, Monique, I want to get out of this programming. It's bullshit. This is what keeps people enslaved on the revolving door. Anyway, it is now. Once again, it's 2:30 in the morning. And Daphne is saying, go back to BHT. No, they've washed their hands of me. Dan Saxby was the one, by the way, who said to go to the local government and social care ombudsman for compensation because they are arresting homeless people illegally. I did that and I ended up adding to the 100% of bad reviews on Trustpilot. I'm having to keep my faculties, right? I'm a rarity because most people are plugged into the matrix. I am telling you exactly what is happening bit by bit. I've given them every opportunity. It's like someone punching you in the face saying, I'm sorry, could you give us another chance? I'm sorry, could you give us another chance? I'm sorry, could you give us another chance? I'm sorry. Why don't you give us another chance? You're battered and bruised. It's just... But there we go. So we need to feel sorry for the murdering, raping, because that's not just Wayne Couzens. There are a lot of police officers. Oh, and apparently psychiatric staff raping vulnerable people. But we mustn't call them out. No, Chantel says we need to think of the families. We need to think of the families of the perps. Dear God, would someone please shoot me in the back of the head? Do it so that I don't know about it. I want a painless way out. Just hold a gun to the back of my head. Do it without me knowing. Do it at long distance. Just make it, please make it peaceful and painless. Because I do not want to carry on in a world where I don't like being around people at the best of times. But honest to God, I cannot stand being... Anyway, so the one good thing is there's a man who wants to set up a community in this loony lefty town. And I want it to be for people like me, you know, who are victims of this. I mean, everyone is a victim of this, you know, Satanism, this what they've done to us, you know, it's in the social engineering. But the ones who come out with this BS, honestly, ugh. So, Monique, I would have said it to your face, but I told you how, you know, this is part of the social engineering. I won't say it to your face always because I'm traumatised, right? I was explaining all of this. So if you get wind of this YouTube video, because let's face it, none of you are going to admit to me how and where and who, with this breach of GDPR, this malicious gossip. I told you about that red-haired nutcase witch in Greg's the Bakery. There was a breach of GDPR there because she wasn't even a psychiatric nurse. She claimed that she worked in the office in Worthing Psychiatric Unit. I don't know about that. I don't know. I could actually ring up to find out. In fact, I might just do that. I would be interested to know if it's true. But, you got the help you needed. I mean, even the security guard thought she was mental. Oh, they're all these mental cases. It is so true what people say about Eastbourne. There is something really. I've spent my whole life down here, but it's only since actually living in Eastbourne and going into this system. My mother had a problem with the rudeness in this town. She didn't tolerate anything. I mean, my mother didn't tolerate any nonsense. This is why none of this would have happened to me. And maybe this is why it's quite scary for them, because they're so loony left and so rude and brainwashed in this town that they're not used to dealing with someone like me, that it's a shock to their system. Tough. You're going to have to learn to deal with it. In the same way anyone will, because someone has to tell the truth. Someone has to wake up the people. You know, some of the greatest people in history, the most intelligent, amazing people, have been like, was it a winner of the Nobel Prize? Or something like that. Someone who was really, really intelligent, who was sectioned, and this is in the days when mental health units were like proper asylums, you know, like prisons, you know. He was basically, it was someone, an activist, or a very intelligent person who was served a mental health fraud back in the day, you know. This has been going on. There's nothing new under the sun. John Alexander Patterson was one of the most intelligent people I've ever met. And he was exposing fraud, theft and money laundering. Unfortunately, he was like me with the police abusing powers community. He was sort of kind of what's the word, abused, exploited by someone who I won't mention, who's a con artist. You've got to be careful in the Truth Is movement, because there are con artists who've got a name for themselves for whatever reason. But John Alexander Patterson was exposing, very brave man, exposing fraud, theft and money laundering from the top to the bottom, and the elite. And I met him in the psychiatric unit. They'd put him in prison, they'd tortured him. You know, it's not too dissimilar to what they're doing to Tommy Robinson. They tried to get him in prison with dangerous people, knowing that they might assassinate him. In fact, actually, maybe that's what they were hoping would happen to me at Belmore Road. I'm saying this in a disassociative state, but because I have to in order to process everything and cope with it. But I think they wanted those convicted criminals to kill me. You know, one time I thought one of them was going to kill me. They're off their heads on drugs. They may have been really badly abused in institutions. I mean, let's face it, the only normal person that went into that house, who seemed normal, who didn't attack in terms of she didn't attack me and she was middle class and polite. She still had some funny ways, but we all do. She was she went to the Tavistock Institute as a child, and she had no idea about the satanic stuff and the social engineering. But the ones that were there before she was in that house, because it's human trafficking, you don't know we don't know what's gone in those people's past. We don't know if they've been abused in children's homes, and that, that they've had mind control from the social services. We don't know. So this might have been the local Stasi's mafia's way of saying, well, they made it very clear to me, because they got someone out from the council to say, we're serving you a section 40 something to stay away from the Riverbourne house. No, you're not. No, you're not. I'm a member of the public. I'm a human being under common law. I've got my sovereignty, and you cowards out there, Eastbourne Borough Council and the police, because you know about my YouTube channel, you can keep doing whatever you like. And now I've got someone who wants to help set up a community in this town. So if you're afraid of me now, you're probably going to be more afraid of me later, because silence is your only weapon. It's the only weapon you have. You like vulnerable people. You like people who are easy to silence. You've picked the wrong doormat, and you're angry about that. You picked the wrong doormat. It's very empowering to know that despite the fact that I suffer this awful torture, this awful mental health, this bereavement, this pain that I carry, that's easily triggered in certain situations, and I suddenly get suicidal, and I explained all of this to Monique, that I can suddenly decide, I'm keep going. Anyway, I'm going to shut up now, because I've said everything I want to say. I'm going to watch the rest of Paul Thorpe's live stream. But yeah, I am hiding so much anger. I haven't gone back to the property. I'm not safe to go back to that house share. Keep going, keep speaking the truth, folks. Don't let anyone silence you. Anyone who tells you the kind of bullshit that they're telling me, and to leave it in the past. Go for a walk. Go and see nature. I love that. That's what my life is based on. Have a cup of tea, yes. Have a piece of cake. But don't let them bullshit you with all this airy-fairiness, because it's all a distraction. Even the Bible will tell you that's a form of witchcraft, because it's manipulation. The word witchcraft, I don't know about the origins, I'll have to look it up myself, but it's not just hocus pocus, that's not witchcraft. We're talking about, you have to study scripture. It's about manipulation. This is what these covert narcissists do. Monique, I think if you're afraid of me speaking the truth, and you're not admitting that you know about my YouTube channel, so you must watch it, but you're probably not telling me this, but I think you need to learn something from this. I'm not going to tell you that I've made this video. I am going to email you. If you find out about it, if you watch it, that's up to you. But I'm hiding. I could have actually screamed and shouted at you earlier. Now, I'm not going to do that, because for one thing, I'm traumatized. I've been silenced. It's PTSD. I'm letting you know my anger appropriately. Right, but I hope that you learned something from this.